scoring 3 touchdowns. It's 89 degrees at 12 o'clock time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our 3 sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dahl.
Hey!
This is Helmets and Heels
On 1010XL, switched on by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
Well, I certainly did not expect to come in today and talk about the Seahawks acquiring Trevis Gibson, one of the Jaguars' edge rushers, for a late-round pick is what it's being reported. I certainly thought Trevis Gibson was not only going to make this team, but be a big part of the pass rush when spelling Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. I was shocked when that news came across this morning.
Yes, this one was a shocker, especially even just listening to Doug Peterson and not really having sort of anything tangible as to why this trade was made, aside from, hey, it's a win-win for all sides. He's going to get a lot of playing time up there, which from what I've read from Seattle Seahawks Twitterland, they have a couple of injuries at that position.
They also just traded Darrell Taylor to the Bears.
Correct. So there's an opening there. He also suggested that at the end of the day, the goal has been the same for the Jaguars since they reopened to begin the 2024 season back in April. And if you want to go all the way back to when the season ended in 2023, back in January, when Doug and Trent Baalke stressed development. And the 2 guys that he referenced in his press conference about 15 minutes ago, and you can take it for what it's worth, were DJ Coleman, someone who they had on the practice squad a year ago, someone folks in the building are very high on, someone who they feel like they've developed in that incubator. And then Miles Cole, the 7th-round rookie who, look, I mean, as raw a project as there was, but the Jaguars feel like they've seen that development and they've seen enough growth in the last few weeks that they can say, okay, we can survive without someone of Gipson's caliber, which, I mean, look, it could all be smoke. They could have. I have no intel. For those of you who don't follow me on social, you know I got off a plane at 1 a.m. last night for my sister's wedding, so I have no intel for you. I'm just speculating at this juncture. But from what Doug said 15 minutes ago, this was a move made to offer the player more opportunity to play, get something back, and also give younger guys an opportunity.
It is interesting because a lot of the conversation we've had this whole offseason is, you know, getting help so that Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker don't have to do everything. So it does seem that Doug and company are comfortable enough with some of these newer / younger guys to come in and still be able to, at least to where the gap isn't huge between Trevis and those guys. So to them, he used the word win-win. And so to them, and obviously Doug, it seems like he thinks it's not that far of a difference to where Trevis wins because he gets to go play in Seattle, and maybe he feels like he'll have a bigger role in Seattle. They got a little bit of obviously some draft compensation out of it, and they feel like they have guys that can still help Josh and Trayvon.
I don't really care if he gets that much playing time. I guess that's how I look at it, is you need the best 53-man roster in order to beat teams like the Dolphins and the Browns the first 2 weeks on your schedule. And he's a guy who I think would have helped. I think he would have gotten to the quarterback at times when asked to do that. And again, he wasn't going to play a ton, but again, to me, that's why you ended up getting him for what you did, which wasn't that much. I thought Trevis had a really good training camp. I thought he had good showings in the preseason. And so at the end of the day, obviously, like you said, both of you, they feel comfortable with what they have. But didn't we have this exact conversation a year ago of needing extra pass rush?
Yeah. And I heard, I'm trying to think who I heard talking on Friday about that, and they were saying the same thing. We had the exact same conversation last year with the offensive line and the defensive line and the pass rush of, do you have enough? We and all the fans and us were shouting, like, go get something. You need one more piece. There's not enough there. And then they're like, it's fine. And yes, we ended up having a career year for Josh Hines-Allen, and you had, obviously, Trayvon went up to 10 sacks. So those 2 guys' improvements and what they were able to do last year kind of made it seem not as glaring just because they did perform so well. But outside of that, there was nothing. And Trevis has been somebody who, when he's in this scheme, has been very successful at getting to the quarterback.
Certainly has. I guess to me, Mia, at this point in time, we can extrapolate that Eric Armstead is going to play some edge rush. That's at least what this move also to me says.
Right. And it's also saying, all right, we've seen him in one practice and he looks healthy, and here we go. I
thought the same thing.
I also think, and this is where we're going to lean on Taylor and, yes, her Chicago Bears expertise, Roy Robertson Harris with Bill Shuey, 2019 in Chicago.
Yep.
What position did he play?
That's what I'm trying to remember where, because we did a lot of rotations there too. So Roy was kind of everywhere. He was outside, he played inside. Roy was kind of all over the place that I remember, but I'm trying to remember what
Key one being he did in a 4-3, he lined up outside.
Yeah.
And like we've said, Eric Armstead in a 4-3 in San Francisco has played up and down that defensive line. And so is this a move that says, well, number one, it's fine because those two guys are going to rotate inside and outside some. Does it also suggest, and I'm only going based off what he told us at the podium last week and what he told, I believe it was Rick Ballou in a one-on-one about 2-3 weeks ago, Mason Smith at LSU has lined up everywhere. All the way out to a wide 9, right on down to a 0 tech. And so that's where I'm curious if there really are no other reinforcements coming in, Lauren, because as much as Trent Baalke told us, he doesn't live life with regrets. No regrets, folks. That's not my Trent Baalke impression. That's my live life with no regrets moniker that I don't believe is the truth. I believe he does have regrets. In my heart of hearts, I believe he does regret not fortifying that edge rusher position a year ago besides a one-legged DeJuan Smoot and whatever Caleb on Chason provided you.
Yeah, and it is interesting to think about that because maybe in their heads they're saying, okay, you have a guy in Roy Robertson Harris and Eric Armstead who can play kind of all over, and you talked about Mason Smith too, obviously. So maybe in their heads they're saying, all right, well, when Eric Armstead, when we have to pull him and have him outside, Roy Robertson Harris can move in and he can be that interior guy, and then they can also flop back and forth. Then you also have Mason Smith who can kind of do similar things. So maybe they just feel like they have enough in the rotation to where Trevis was, it's nice, but that's what Trevis would have been, is that outside. He wasn't ever going to be pulled on the inside.
At the end of the day, certainly the roster cuts due tomorrow at 4 p.m. Do you think there will be any more surprises between now and then? And obviously, Trevis Gibson was not cut. He was traded.
Which is interesting, too, Mia, because you weren't with us on Friday, obviously. Congrats to your sister.
Yeah, round of applause. Yes, thank you. She's somewhere on a beach right now, but round of applause to Cobb, Kara O'Brien.
But we were talking about, because there was kind of some rumors floating around about Roy and why has he been playing so much of all of these games? Are they not seeing what they want out of Roy? So to me, though, this more says like Roy is going to be on the roster. I would be crazy. I would be massively surprised if he is not.
Right, which financially speaking, and I understand those of you who are like, well, technically you lost money on the dollar with Foley Fatukasi, and this is the same franchise that took on a record amount of dead cap money at the time for cutting Blake Bortles. So therefore you feel like money is whatever. Yeah. No, they were never, I don't believe, considering cutting Roy Robertson Harris. I don't believe that's in the cards. Look, anything can happen.
Yeah,
because
I think it's just injury related.
Right, exactly. I think that was about ramp up period as much as anything else. Acclimation, onboarding. I understand he's been here for 3 seasons now, but this is about getting guys acclimated. But no, I think that what's fascinating about this trade is it's one that usually is done for a guy who you were going to cut anyways.
Yeah.
Or someone who was on the fringe of making the roster, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get some sort of return on my investment. Trevis Gibson also was making the vet minimum here, and so you really weren't even paying him that much. So the idea of, well, if Miles Cole develops, we got him for a 7th-round pick. Let's say that this compensation is a 7th-round pick. Not saying that lightning can strike twice, but if you can turn that around, hell, Cam Little was a 6th-round pick. Looking like a pretty good return on the investment right now. And so I think that's the thought, is he was on a 1-year prove-it deal anyways. You were paying him peanuts. Yeah. And so what is interesting, though, in the vacuum is that you viewed him that way. Are there other guys you view in that light? I'm not so sure.
It's also surprising to me because I heard absolutely nothing about Trevis Gibson being unhappy here. And that's that's what to me is so surprising is if we had heard some rumblings that, he really wants to be a starter. Like we've heard with Yannick Ngakoue for years now that he only will play for teams if he's going to be able to start as a pass rusher. And so then I certainly wouldn't have been surprised. I heard none of that throughout training camp and through the preseason as well. So if you missed the news, the Jaguars did trade Trevis Gibson, the defensive end, outside linebacker, however you want to call it, to the Seattle Seahawks and reportedly for a late round pick. I do think projecting the 53-man roster is an incredibly difficult task. whether it was before the Gipson news or after, it still is a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, and we've talked about that a lot this offseason and how Doug said it, Trevor said it, of how this is the best roster that they've had here in Jacksonville, and also the more difficult decisions to make in certain areas because there is so much talent in multiple levels of this team. But also, I think there are so many young pieces that you are also kind of banking on being those people, and you don't want like a Jordan Jefferson and Mason Smith are going to be on this roster because you just use pretty high draft capital for them. So, but you're still kind of trying to figure out where those guys sit and where their ceiling is, where their floor is, all of those things. So there's a lot of decisions that go into figuring out all of these little, especially when it comes to the depth, and that's what. Seeing these preseason games and kind of the way certain guys flash, and you want to see if that's just a lightning in a bottle thing or if that's something that you'll be able to see transfer into the regular season.
Did I convince y'all to hate preseason as much as I do?
No,
I don't hate preseason.
not in the least. No, I think it's essential.
Yeah.
I think, Lauren, quite frankly, you've been banging the table for Assezi, and I'm not so sure we're talking about him as a potential guy to make the 53 if not for preseason games.
Yeah.
Training camp, I think, based off of where they had played him, when he was in with
Okay, so let's go to another one.
That,
Miles Cole, in practice, looked like a guy who had never played defensive end before and was getting worked by veteran offensive linemen who are not nearly as athletic specimens as he is at 22, 23 years old. And then suddenly he gets in his first game against, wait for it, the Kansas City Chiefs, the two-time defending Super Bowl champions, and suddenly you're like, oh, there's something we can work with here.
Mm-hmm. It is essential in terms of trimming the roster from 90, 91 to 53, 54, however you wanted to dice it up. But as far as a fan perspective, I don't like watching guys lay their bodies on the line for a game that doesn't count. That's the part that I struggle with when you do see an injury, and certainly the Jaguars have been fairly lucky, very lucky, I should say. But there are other teams that have lost guys for the entire season, and again, it just is a result that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but also, I mean, in the words of Kyle Shanahan, we're all living day to day, Lauren. This is not,
And some of the guys don't see a regular season without a preseason, without performing the way they do in a preseason.
And also, you're always risking, anytime you step onto a football field for practice, you're risking injury, let alone a game.
Do you think Florida State wished it had a preseason?
Oh, boy. Here we go. Thank you to the
Florida State fans.
There's a couple Heeligans that have already chimed in. They're like, you guys are burying the lead.
I know.
We know you want to predict the 53-man roster, helmets and heels. We know you want to get after it with what the Jaguars are going to be doing during limbo week, but you're burying the lead. Let's talk about Florida State. But, of course, we do have a special guest coming up from the other side of the argument, too.
Yes, at 12:40, Miles Garrett will join us and talk all about that game. But quickly, what I'll say, and Mia, like Taylor said, you weren't here on Friday, but I said if Florida State runs the ball for 150 yards, if their rushing attack gets 150 yards, Florida State wins the game. I was 100% convinced of that.
You weren't wrong.
After the first drive, I thought to myself, okay, and said out loud to Brian, if Georgia Tech doesn't score on their opening drive, this game is over.
Yeah.
Even though that's way too dramatic. I understand that. But that's how it felt in the moment. Well, Georgia Tech certainly drove down, scored the touchdown. They decided to go for the extra point instead of the 2-point conversion like Norvell did. And then after that, the rushing attack really diminished. And Georgia Tech ran for over 190 yards, and that to me was the difference in the ball game.
Oh, it was 100% difference in the ball game. A tip of the cap to those ball knowers who, of course, focus on the trenches and believe that offensive line play still matters in 2024 because that game was the very definition of it, and that was before the weather took a turn over in Dublin. I just cannot come away from this game without thinking about whether it was the Florida State Roundtable, of course, which is available on the 1010XL Seminoles YouTube channel, and you should go watch it if you haven't already because there's still plenty of stuff regarding Boston College and the rest of the slate for the Noles in 2024 that you should go listen to. Whether it was that, whether it was the intel we've gotten from Allison Posey, WCTV, who was, of course, over there in Dublin, from Ira Schafel, War Chant, what we have consistently heard, Taylor, is the biggest question marks, and Rick Ballou verbatim said it on our program last Tuesday, the biggest question mark, the quarterback and the wide receivers. And that's not to say that Malik Benson isn't a good wide receiver, but has he found that continuity with DJ Uiagalelei yet?
Yeah.
Additionally, is the quarterback the biggest question mark? And I didn't want to believe it, because as much as Miles Garrett told us in, June, Taylor, that he believed Georgia Tech was a top 3 team in the ACC, and we all had a good laugh about that, I do believe they are a top 5 team in the ACC, and that was before Saturday's game. I just couldn't get past the idea of DJU being a bit for the last 4 months. And then he did what he did, or did not do, I should say, on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it was, there were so many things because we've been talking about the run game, and I was talking about, we had Wasserman on from PFF on Friday, and I was talking, I'm like, I feel like we've talked a ton about Florida State's run game here, but I want to talk a little bit about Georgia Tech's run game, and I just felt like
power to the trenches, baby.
Oh my goodness, there was just right up the middle, right over their defensive linemen, who I've heard look like grown men all off season, and they were just getting run over by obviously Haynes King, but also Jamal Haynes and the other Chad. I can't remember his last name at this time, but the third running back also still had like 40, 50 rushing yards too. It was all three of them running all over the defensive line. But also, I think we heard about
Chad Alexander.
Both of the trenches in general, both the defensive line and offensive line for Florida State, and that was kind of what people were expecting to be one of their stronger suits. And Florida State couldn't run the ball, they couldn't stop the run, and also they were terrible in converting third downs. And it was just like every third down, you were pretty much like, this is no chance.
We're gonna again dive into this much more with Miles Garrett coming up later in the 12 o'clock hour. But that you hit on the other big takeaway I had, Taylor, the defense for Florida State, and I feel bad because I've been helping preach this propaganda, this agenda, whether it was talking to Jarian Jones, Kalen DeLoach, any of those alums who played with this group of young Florida State defensive players who said, nah, man, Adam Fuller's got them playing even better than last year when they were 13-0 until they got to their game against Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I even call that? Do I call it a bowl game? I don't even know what I want to call it. But the point is, that was the biggest disappointment. We knew what the question mark was. The question mark was DJU and the wide receivers. We hoped that the running game would be enough, but I did not expect that performance, especially in run defense from Florida State.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech and the game plan that they had was incredibly smart. They knew that they were going to punch Florida State in the mouth early on, and they weren't going to let up. And what was so insane to me is you've got 6 minutes left in the ball game, and Florida State never even gets the ball back because Georgia Tech said, we are holding this ball for the rest of the game. And they knew all they had to do was line up for that field goal, and the kid from Ireland would win, which was such a fun story. But it was very surprising to me the way the game went after those first two drives. Like, you expected Florida State to score right away. But then the drought that they had for so long, that part, and again, Jordan Travis elevated that team for the last few seasons.
Yep.
DJ Uyunglele, which a lot of people who watched him play football the last few seasons thought he's not going to be able to do that. And I don't care how good the receivers are at times, if your quarterback can't elevate everyone around them.
And a guy like Jared Verse, we talked so much, they were talking about Peyton and how they were going to be able to, and it's okay. Like, Rick Ballew's made comments that he could, and it's 1 week, so maybe we will see this progress into something closer to Jared Verse. But there were people commenting that he has the potential to be better than Jared Verse, and it almost felt like you didn't even see the defensive ends during that game.
And look, the sky is not falling.
Yeah.
I understand it's disappointing.
I know it's probably very saddening.
If you don't trust your quarterback, it's hard to be excited about the rest of the season.
If I can make you feel a little bit better, Knowles fans, which this is a safe space, by the way, please hit us up on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures, 641-1010. Pour it out. Pour one out for the Knowles. Let it out. Or you can hit us up, the MyBookie Digital Studio chat line. Drown us in your Guinness and your sorrow. Clemson. Little old Clemson. 2-2 to start last year. As memory may serve you, the world was ending up there in Clemson, South Carolina. And while certainly, yes, finishing at 9-4 is a disappointing season there, we said it last week, ladies. If the Noles are somewhere between 9 and 11 wins, that still shows that Mike Norvell is doing something right out there in God's country. They still have a lot in front of them that they could still get to that juncture, but certainly a lot to clean up.
Yeah, they could win the ACC championship, still get in the college football playoff. That's not over, especially now with the 12-teamer. All right, we'll continue to talk football, talk some more Jags and Florida State, Georgia Tech as well. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
There's a new one-stop shop for all things Florida State. Subscribe to 1010XL Seminoles YouTube channel, up-to-the-minute updates, analysis, and more. Plant the spear and subscribe to 1010XL Seminoles channel today.
Now, the Florida State Seminole Report, brought to you by your local Ag Pro, your home team.
Florida State suffered a tough 24-21 loss in Ireland over the weekend due to a last-second 44-yard field goal made by Georgia Tech. FSU quarterback DJ Uiagalelei would complete 19 of 27 passes for 193 yards in his first game as a Nole. Next up for Florida State is a Labor Day matchup with Boston College at 7:30. I'm RJ Saunders with your Ag Pro. Seminole Report.
Ag Pro has been family-owned and operated for over 64 years. We take pride in developing long-lasting relationships and offering first-class customer service. Need a new tractor, parts for your used equipment, or reliable service? Ag Pro has you covered. Ag Pro is here to serve you and your operation as your hometown dealer. Visit us today at any of our Ag Pro locations or go online to agproco.com to get started with your Ag Pro experience.
Mia here. Are you ready for the ultimate college football season? Using MyBookie Sportsbook and casino platform, you can bet on every game and win anytime, anywhere, straight from your mobile device. No app needed, folks. Just head on over to mybookie.ag, click the Sportsbook link at the top, sign up, and you are ready to rock. Did you know that the average college football game runs about 180 plays? Literally every catch, every sack, and every touchdown is another way to hit pay dirt. Using MyBookie, when you bet, you're not just watching the games, you're investing in every moment of the action. I'll say it from personal experience. A few bucks on the line can turn any regular season game into one of the most exciting of the season. Shout out Georgia Tech, plus 10.5. Don't forget to use promo code 1010XL when you sign up to claim up to $1,000 on your first deposit. That's promo code 1010XL. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime, only with MyBookie. And don't forget that promo code 1010XL.
Looking for a new vehicle? Take a look at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. Now's the time to save big this summer. Choose from more than 250 new and over 1,000 used and certified pre-owned vehicles on the lot, or shop anytime at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com. Hyundai has one of the top warranties in the business. Lifetime powertrain and a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, plus 3 years free maintenance on a new vehicle. Give us the opportunity to earn your business today. Atlantic Boulevard, Jacksonville, or visit JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com. Welcome to the family.
Injured in an accident? Have mounting medical bills? Can't work? Don't worry. Zach's got your back. I'm Zach Von Rowan of Von Rowan Law. I will fight for the compensation that you deserve. Set up your free consultation at zachsgotyourback.com.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday. The local Jacksonville shop for fair prices and service you can trust.
Have a group trip or company function soon? Mark Watson here with Hardball Creative. Get busy ordering the t-shirts and other swag you'll need. It's easy with Hardball.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
This is Tony Baselli, Pro Football Hall of Famer. I was known for protecting our quarterback. These days, I'm extending that protection to a different arena, your home. I have partnered with Heritage Roofing of North Florida, your premier local roofers with over 25 years of experience. Heritage is your go-to roofer for hurricane preparation, with same-day inspections and estimates. They also work with all insurance companies. Let Heritage Roofing of North Florida safeguard your home and family. Visit heritagenfl.com for your free estimate today.
State license CCC 1335410.
Are you looking for a place to outfit your truck or van? It's Catlin Truck Accessories. For 105 years and 4 generations, Catlin is the name you can count on. This is Keith Catlin, and we know trucks and vans too, from Lear toppers, ladder racks, van shelving, strobe lighting, roll and lock bed covers, and everything in between. If you want quality products and great customer service, there's only one name. It's Catlin.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
For 105 years, you can count on Catlin.
I'm Hacker. Get more Gators on the Gator Bites podcast presented by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists with new episodes every Wednesday. Subscribe and listen by searching for 1010XL Florida Gator Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or TuneIn.
You hear that? That's the sound of your water bill tripling. Are you ready to fix the drip? Call Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services. They do it all. DuckDuckRooter.com.
You're shrimping a bag.
Jumbo Shrimp Baseball presented by FIS is home this week at 1-to-1 Financial Ballpark. Everbank Teacher Appreciation tomorrow. Then it's 5-Star Good is Everywhere Wednesday. Don't miss Coors Light Thirsty Thursday. And the weekend of Boom with fireworks Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Baseball all week and weekend. Tickets start at just $5. JackShrimp.com for tickets. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball. Affordable family fun.
This is Mark Nato. My son Justin injured his hand playing baseball for JU. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist performed surgery just a few days later, and within 5 weeks, he was cleared to play in the ASUN baseball tournament. Our family has trusted Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for years. For any orthopedic injury, let Southeast Orthopedic Specialists take care of you too.
Relieve pain and get back to life. SOS. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Big Chief Tire Monday. All right, ladies, let's do it. Let's just get it over with. The 53-man projection.
Stand by. I have to go grab my notebook.
Okay, well, we'll start with quarterback because something tells me Mia doesn't need her notebook for the quarterback position. I assume that we're all three of us going to have only two quarterbacks, and that would be Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones.
Yes, that is correct. I only have two. I also, I took my original one and, tracked the differences that I've changed. Well, I made my second one, and then I did, side-by-side columns to track. So I was like, let me just see how different, how much it's changed within the last, month. And so that was kind of fun, honestly, to go through and do that. But yes, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones for me.
And I'm assuming, Mia, that's what you have as well.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to running back, where I already struggled when it comes to this position group because I wanted Jalen Jackson on the 53. But in the end, I only kept three running backs, Etienne, Bigsby, and Dearness Johnson.
Yep, same here.
Same. I believe that now with the NFL's new rule that you can have two candidates who you can place on IR right now, and they will return anywhere between the first, anywhere after the first 4 weeks of the season. I believe those two candidates for the Jaguars will be Dewey Wingard and then Keelan Robinson.
Yeah.
That's what I anticipate it being.
Yeah. Me too. I have Keelan Robinson on IR as far as that's concerned. Wide receiver, do you have 6 or 7?
I have 6.
I have 6 as well.
Oh, we all three have 6. I'm a little surprised by that. So that means Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr., Devin Duvernay, Parker Washington. I have Tim Jones.
Same. Me too.
I have Elijah Cooks.
Okay.
I think it's just, it's one of those things where you assume or you hedge your bet that Elijah Cooks would be claimed off waivers. Now, granted, they thought that would be the case last year, and we don't know what would have happened if he doesn't make the initial 53. I just think the odds are better that he could be claimed by someone than Tim Jones.
Yeah, I do too. I want, and I did the same thing when we made it the first time where I said, this is what I think they'll do over what I want. I would want Elijah Cooks, but I think they'll go Tim Jones. I've heard some rumblings about how whoever this is obviously going to be a massive part of the special teams, whoever this next player is. And I've heard that just the size of Elijah and how big he is isn't working well in some of the return aspects and special teams aspects. So that's what is interesting. But I would, if I could choose, I'd want Elijah. I just think because of strictly special teams and what Tim Jones can do there, that they might want to have a player like him.
Yeah, and Tim Jones, we know, is also, like you said, special teams, but a really good blocking receiver. So if you need that, they could also keep 7. So it could be that Tim Jones and Elijah Cooks both make it.
Especially if Keelan Robinson starts on IR, so then you have 3 running backs, and that opens up a spot.
Exactly. All right, tight end, I'm assuming we all have 3. Evan Ingram, Brenton Strange, and Luke Farrell.
That is correct.
Do you think Murtaugh would have had any chance of making this team?
Well, he's going to be there regardless.
But
I mean, well, he's going to be there regardless. He's going to be there regardless. Could he be active, you mean? One of the active 48? I don't think so. I think the plan was always to have him in the pipeline, literally in the pathway, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I don't think he would have been active on game day. He was always going to be here regardless.
All right, let's get it to the one of the more difficult ones, and that, to me, is the offensive line. You have your starters, Cam Robinson and Anton Harrison, as far as the tackles are concerned. You have your starting center, Mitch Morse, and then you have your left guard, Ezra Cleveland, and your right guard, Brandon Sheriff. And then after that, you've obviously got Walker Little. We'll all have him. I assume we'll all have Javon Foster, the rookie.
Correct.
I assume we'll all have Luke Fortner.
Correct.
Yes. Cooper Hodges.
Correct.
And then after that is where I think it gets interesting. I have my 10th guy is Cole Van Lannon.
My 10th is Blake Hance.
I have Blake Hance and Cole Van Lannon.
So you have 11?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Is right.
Yeah, and I heard someone on Twitter had commented about, because I had 11 the first time too. The only difference is I had Tyler Shatley and I took Tyler Shatley out and put Blake Hance in as my differences. But I was like, I don't think they're keeping 11 today after what happened with with Trevis, it gave me a spot and it opened up a spot for me, and it wasn't going to be a defensive player that I think was going to make it. So I was like, perfect timing for me to add an offensive lineman, because especially with the way injuries happened last year and some of the question marks maybe around some of the other guys, that I feel like it's a good opportunity to have that a little bit of security. So yeah, I have 11 there.
I have 10, and I think this is to pair this with the trade of Trevis Gibson this morning. This is where my biggest question mark is. I had the Jaguars in our initial 53-man roster projection before training camp began. I have them keeping 9 offensive linemen. I have them keeping 10 now. They've kept 9 each of the past 2 seasons. Now, where this relates to the Gipson trade is that fundamentally it feels like the Jags are stockpiling every single position room as much as they possibly can when it comes to keeping able and proven bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They have Cam Robinson. They have Walker Little. They've got Mitch Morse. They've got Luke Fortner. Like, they are just saying, we want to have as many bodies as possible. And I understand offensive line play and outside linebacker, defensive end play is a little bit different. But it just feels like they are leaving no stone unturned. If they can keep a veteran-proven body and have depth behind it, they are going to do that from a roster-building perspective. And so it's just interesting to me that that's the approach from the offensive line. I would argue that's the approach from a couple different positions. But yet they're willing to let a veteran guy like Gipson go in a trade, at least from what Doug Peterson said a little over a half hour ago, because they believe there's young guys in the pipeline. That is something they did last year, Lauren. They haven't done it at other positions until today at that edge spot, and I don't believe they will do it at the offensive line spot.
I can't believe that in 2024, there might not be a Tyler Shatley on the 53-man roster, as it has been for the last 10 years.
I know.
I had him in my initial, and then just like you just were talking about, Mia, with the sheer amount of bodies that they have at that position group. And if they kept more than 10 offensive linemen, I'd be surprised. But at the same time, that's a position group that you typically lose a guy.
Yeah. Not
just season ending, but there's times that guys just can't go in a certain week. And so unless you're Brandon Sheriff and you play through every injury possible. But yeah, that will be interesting to me to see. Is it Blake Hance? Is it Cole Van Linen? Is Shatley on the practice squad? Does he retire? I have no idea. And Luke Fortner, yes, will be on this roster. I think there were people that didn't want him to be on the roster, but he will be on the roster. All right, we will get it back to college football and chat with Miles Garrett up in Atlanta, talk Georgia Tech FSU when we return, and then we'll continue our 53-man roster projection in the 1 o'clock hour.
The Knowles fans are letting it out, Lauren. They're letting it out on the text line, and we want to continue to pour out your emotions. 641-1010 or the MyBookie Digital Studio chat line. I know it's a lot of Jaguar fans there. Knowles fans, you are welcome to also sound off. Maybe we will read some of them on the air, not only in the 1 o'clock hour, which we're planning to do, but also for Miles Garrett coming up here in just a second.
I like it. It's 1010X on 92.5 FM.
Guys, feeling deflated in the bedroom? ED, low T, no energy? If your stuff is broken, call 904-STROKEN or 904stroken.com. No shots in the first treatment, now free. Fix your ED at 904stroken.com.
Jimerson Burr is a full-service, Florida-based commercial law firm dedicated to helping businesses manage risk, maximize opportunities, and move their company forward. Jimerson Burr attorneys are business-oriented lawyers, equally comfortable as community leaders, private transaction counselors, or courtroom advocates. If you have a legal issue of any kind affecting your business, contact the firm at 389-0050 or jimersonfirm.com.
Big Chief Tire Monday on Helmets and Heels.
Homeowners, good news for you. Accent on 4. Listen up. Loan Pronto now has mortgage rates that start with a 4. Prosser here. It's true. Mortgage rates have plummeted. So low, we haven't seen them in a long time. If your current rate is over 6%, you can dump it and lower your house payment big time. Loan Pronto just locked in a homeowner at 4.99% APR. So whether you got your loan last week, last month, or last year, it's time to call Loan Pronto. Even if you're in process with another lender, stop now. Call Loan Pronto. Ask about their zero-cost rate reduction home loan. You can lock in a lower rate with no closing costs in a matter of days, with almost no paperwork and usually no appraisal. And if you act now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now. Loan Pronto can give you a rate quote in minutes with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees like those other guys. Call 904-999-1508 or loanpronto.com. Call 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. Owner proof credit, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
At Hodges Mazda, what Mazda moves you? Find out. Lauren Brooks here. Come test drive the Mazda CX-90, engineered to fit your lifestyle. Take advantage of 1.9% APR for up to 72 months on a 2024 Mazda CX-90, the largest three-row SUV that Mazda offers. The professional non-commissioned sales team always puts your best interest first, and you'll get 2 years free maintenance. Visit Hodges Mazda today or shop online at HodgesMazda.com to discover the Hodges Mazda difference. See dealer for details. Terms and fees for qualified applicants expire September 3rd, 2024.
Tired of changing out bad sod year after year? Get it done right with Roundtree Sod. Big or small, they have it, and always supplied farm fresh. For a lush, legendary green lawn, call 7414-SOD for a free estimate. 7414-SOD.
Looking for a new or used firearm? Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach will get you locked and loaded. New firearms coming in weekly and always looking for used guns. No lines and no waiting. Online at beachesjewelryandpawn.com.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On August 26, 1912, MLB legendary pitcher Walter Johnson ended his 16-game winning streak in a 4-3 loss to the St. Louis Browns.
Hey folks, this is Dave Benyon with my son Ammon here from Zero Res. Ammon, you've been cleaning air ducts for a while now. What are some of the reasons customers might consider getting their air ducts cleaned?
There are many reasons. Many times, people suffer needlessly from poor indoor air quality produced by the conditions in their air system. Construction dust, the presence of bacterial growth, and years' worth of buildup all come together to make your air ducts a pretty gross place. If you suffer from allergies, have recently moved, recently remodeled, or have never had your air ducts cleaned, then now is the best time to call. By calling Zero Res, you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that you called the best of the best. Our state-of-the-art truck mount system and top-of-the-line service representatives simply can't be found anywhere else. Google Zero Res and read thousands of 5-star reviews.
So what kind of deals can I expect?
Just mention that you heard us on the radio, and we'll give you $100 off your air duct cleaning.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty great deal. Remember, folks, Zero Res,
spelled forward or backwards, it's the right way to clean.
CEROREZ. Zero Res.
Jaguars football is officially back. Be there for the Jaguars 2024 home opener when they go head-to-head with the Cleveland Browns. Join us as we celebrate Hispanic heritage and take the field at Everbank Stadium for the first time during our 30th season. Lock in your seats now for the 1 p.m. kick by going to jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. We can't wait to see you back at the bank.
Imagine stepping out of your cozy cabin on a crisp fall morning, coffee in hand, a stunning view from your private porch greets you. You spend the day relaxing at the Tiki Bar or taking a dip in the year-round pool while catching the big game on TV. Welcome to Island Oaks RV Resort, just past McClenny off exit 333. Book your cabin that sleeps 4 to 6 people. A close, affordable getaway with activities for the whole family. Make memories that last at Island Oaks RV Resort, islandOaksRVResort.com.
Welcome to ABS, Advanced Business Solutions, your local print management partner and home to Xerox copiers. From IT management to VoIP phone systems, Advanced Business Solutions is the right name to know.
When storms start to crop up in the Atlantic or Gulf this time of year, having a solid plan to handle anything that sweeps through the First Coast is very important. That's where American Electrical comes in. Ensure your home's safety and comfort with an American Electrical home generator. As the area's leading home generator dealer and installer, American Electrical can offer you easy installation, simple maintenance, and peace of mind. Schedule an assessment by simply calling the team at American Electrical. They'll walk you through the best generator for your home or business. Log on, american-electrical.com.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
The Jaguars dominated the Falcons in their last preseason game on Friday night, winning 31-0. Backup quarterback Mac Jones continued a strong preseason when he replaced Lawrence, leading touchdown drives on 2 of his first 4 possessions. Head coach Doug Peterson spoke post-game about Mac's performance.
Mac has played extremely well on the last couple of weeks and really, has bought into what we do. And he'll still revert back to his Patriot ways every now and then. And we got to remind him he's in Jacksonville. But he's done a good job. He's done a good job managing and running the offense, getting everybody involved. He sees the field well, throws a good ball. So, he's done a good job.
Sound courtesy of Jaguars.com. I'm Molly McDonald with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Garber Auto Mall phone line.
Hello.
We can wiggle it.
44 yards away to do it. He got it. And the Yellow Jackets did it. Upset in hand. They found themselves a pot of gold at the end of their Irish rainbow.
I'm so glad we had a bit of a scheduling snafu while I was on vacation Friday. Because not only do I get to check in and speak with my good friend Miles Garrett, the other Miles Garrett up in Atlanta by way of Fox 5, but we get to talk to Miles on a Victory Monday for the ATL's team, Georgia Tech. Miles, I saw this from Barrett Saleh that he was on his flight to Paris to get to Dublin, and the flight attendant literally said, "Good luck to Atlanta's football team." I do believe Georgia Tech is now Atlanta's football team, if only for the next week or so.
Yeah, we're going to figure that out this week when they play Georgia State. Going to be the battle between Midtown and Downtown. But, I think it's safe to say they are Atlanta's team as we speak.
Walk us through last Saturday. What exactly transpired from the Georgia Tech perspective, big picture, before we dive into the nitty-gritty? You told us a few months ago, Miles, you believe this team would be a top 3 team in the ACC. They certainly looked the part in Dublin.
Well, first of all, I'm a little bummed I wasn't on Friday because I was on a Atlanta radio station not too long before that and gave my prediction. I said 24-17 Georgia Tech, and I think that's pretty close to exactly what happened there. But it's either here nor there. Regardless, what happened in that game? I mean, it's really been the story of Buster Faulkner as this offensive coordinator for Georgia Tech. He's really transformed this offense when he arrived there from last offseason going into this year, and he really likes to just run the football. That's been a point of emphasis for this team this offseason. At ACC Media Days, they even asked, I believe it was either Jamal Haynes or maybe Eric Singleton, what's going to be would you rather score a rushing touchdown or a receiving touchdown? I think he started saying, it's either touchdown's great, and Buster Faulkner intervened and said, no, we are going to run the football. And I think we saw that a good bit, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, Haynes King, only 146 yards through the air, relatively efficient, just 11 to 16. But that was part of the attack. 54 yards rushing, a lot of zone reads, whether that was to Jamal Haynes or a Haynes King read option, even throwing in Zach Pyron there, the backup quarterback, to rush in for the first touchdown of the game. I think that was the X factor for this team and really controlling the line of scrimmage. And not just that, just beating Florida State's defensive line, because Florida State's got a very, very good defensive line there. And I think Georgia Tech really proved themselves in the trenches there, that what could set the tone for the rest of the season.
Now, when we're talking about it on the defensive side of the ball, Miles, because I think we talked a ton about both teams and how they're able to run the ball. It did not work for Florida State very well. Obviously, it did for Georgia Tech this weekend. But defensively, I mean, after that first touchdown, it seemed like it was a whole lot of Georgia Tech because of the turnover on downs, and then you force a field goal, and then it's the end of a half. But every time you felt like they were faced with a third down, Georgia Tech was able to stop them. Was that surprising at all, or has it been something that's been talked about, this defense being able to be this good against the run and against those third down situations?
Well, look, I think part of this was, I think that was a really big question mark for Georgia Tech coming into this season, because their rush defense last year was so bad. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been one of the worst in the entire country, not just the ACC. So to have that improvement, just in one offseason under Tyler Santucci, as your first-year defensive coordinator, there's some changes that Georgia Tech has made there. And, yeah, I think that was a big surprise, because you look at that first offensive drive by Florida State to start the game, it looked like FSU was about to run all over Georgia Tech. They moved down the field with relative ease. So to have them make that adjustment there, the rest of the game really after that first drive was huge. And you have a lot of guys getting in there, some transfers like Romello Height, having some tackles for loss there, the transfer to USC. They're getting some guys in there. Kyle Eifert kind of showing that linebacking aesthetic, per se, that was trending on Twitter. I love to see him getting involved in some of those plays there. But, yeah, a lot of guys getting involved and a lot of good adjustments they made after that first drive.
I was surprised, Miles, to see Zach Pyron go in for that one touchdown, just for the fact that Haynes King is it seems like the dual threat guy. So what do you think about that backup quarterback? Do you think we'll see packages for him all season long?
Yeah, I think so. You saw a few packages with him last year. I wasn't quite sure if that was going to continue this year, but I do know they like Zach Pyron a lot, and especially with the beating that Haynes King probably took at the end of that game. He was getting tackled quite a bit, probably a lot more than you want your starting quarterback to get. But, Zach Pyron's a big kid, 6'3", 220, Alabama kid. He's probably got a little bit of that toughness in him. So whether it's rushing in for packages near the goal line, that's specifically where they used him a good bit last season. So I would certainly expect that to continue again this year. And I think, we saw it week 1, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it continue.
Miles Garrett is our guest on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. You can find him on X at Miles Garrett TV. He is a sports anchor reporter up at Fox 5 in Atlanta. Let's flip it on over to the other side of the ball, Miles. A chicken or the egg question for you. Georgia Tech with only 1 sack but 7 tackles for loss against Florida State on Saturday. Chicken or the egg in that, is this a question mark and a problem for the Florida State offensive line, or is Georgia Tech's defensive front for real?
Honestly, I wish I could give a good answer on that, because I still don't know, because last year it was such a point of weakness for Georgia Tech. So to have them come out and kind of, I don't want to say dominate, but relatively handle FSU's offensive line, whether that was a, indictment on DJ Uiagalelei. I know there was that, first half question of not really getting the ball past the line of scrimmage or whatnot, but I do think it's going to be probably a point of trying to see more consistency out of the Yellow Jacket defense. And honestly, likewise for Florida State. This is week 0. We still aren't quite sure what either team is. Of course, week 1, it's obvious. Week 0, I guess, if we want to go back to it, is that's all the sample size you really have to work with. So at this point, I think it's tough to say, but it certainly was a surprise, I think, from the side of Georgia Tech, because just from a talent perspective and what they were coming off of last year, I don't think anyone was expecting them to be that even on that front. I think there was sort of a consensus that Georgia Tech would do pretty well offensively, or relatively hold their own offensively, but to hold them defensively like they did, I think was a big surprise. And I think we'll take a few weeks to really know where they are, because Georgia Tech has a relatively easy slate coming up here, obviously coming up with Georgia State coming up, and they're a rebuilding program themselves with Del McGee. So they have a big game later on coming on with Louisville and Notre Dame, a couple big stretches there. So I think we'll find out a little bit later in the season, but for now, I think it's just a big surprise. I wouldn't want to label it as they're back or they have this defensive line figured out yet, but certainly a good sign moving forward.
When we're talking about maybe taking a few weeks, because it's something I talked about last week, Miles, of the amount of new pieces Florida State's coming into this offseason, with half of their offense being new players that they've kind of had to figure out, and then in addition to that, losing guys like a Jared Verse and both defensive backs that they lost, like a Jarian Jones. But what are your initial thoughts? Do you think this is kind of the Florida State that we're going to see, or do you think that someone like DJ Uiagalelei can kind of ease into things and we'll see a little bit more as Florida State starts rolling?
Well, I think the big question mark with DJ Uiagalelei is, what we saw there is something that we saw a lot of at Clemson. And I think that's been really the biggest concern with him his whole career, really. I think he made a hell of a lot of money in that Clemson Notre Dame game a few years ago just because of his performance, because we've never seen that performance really since then. We saw some spurts here and there at Oregon State, but for the remainder of his time at Clemson, we didn't really see that DJ Uiagalelei. We really saw the one that we saw on Saturday. So for him to kind of show that consistency of what he is, I don't want to say that is who he is as a quarterback, but I'd say 85% of his career, that's kind of what he's shown. So, you hope to see him take some strides because he has all the talent in the world. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was the number 1 overall recruit a few years back, by in front of a guy like C.J. Stroud. So they do have some weapons on the offense, but like you said, they did lose a lot of very valuable pieces there that are very hard to replace. So, I do have faith in Mike Norvell as a head coach to kind of retool that offense because they do have a lot of talent. But from that perspective alone, it's hard, especially when it comes to DJ Uyunglele, to think he's going to change it now at this point, because he's been playing college ball for a while now.
Yeah, I've been wondering all offseason if he didn't play well, what the leash would be like for him, but not sure that Mike Norvell is necessarily going to go to the Brock Glynns of the world, of the Luke Corman Hawks this early. All right, Miles, you also covered the Falcons. The Jaguars were up in Atlanta Friday night and pretty much shellacked the backups, I'll say. What was your biggest takeaway from that 31-0 game?
Shellacked the backups, I would say. Falcons are, for some reason, do not like playing anybody at all in the preseason. I think Raheem Morris got a little spooked there in week 1 against the Dolphins when they lost 3 guys to season-ending injuries. But, it's hard because we do, pregame, postgame shows as partners with the Falcons. And each week this preseason, we're like, all right, what's the storyline? Well, the starters and the backups aren't playing again. So here's, I guess, a fight for who's going to try to make the roster at this point. So it's kind of hard to have a takeaway really at this point, because right now the talking points really have only been about guys who may not even make the team at this point. So it's kind of hard to assess. If you want to talk backup quarterbacks, I mean, there's a very valid argument that Taylor Heineke will probably get traded at this point, just because you already have Michael Penix Jr. there, and Heineke obviously is a little bit expensive and hasn't really wowed you in the preseason. So I would assume he's probably a trade candidate. But outside of that, as far as preseason storylines go, it's really hard to come up with one, because you haven't really seen anything of note outside of 1 or 2 drives of Michael Penix Jr. week 1 against the Dolphins. So, to really get an assessment out of that Jaguars game is tough, because there wasn't really anyone of note who made a difference for the Falcons in that game.
And Miles, while we have you on the Garber Auto Mall hotline, let's touch them all. Fox 5 in Atlanta is, of course, the official station of the Georgia Bulldogs as well. Big picture questions for you, big picture X factors. Georgia, Clemson at noon on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's obviously going to have the home field advantage. It's going to feel like a strong Georgia home game, I'm sure. So wouldn't worry about the crowd being an issue for the Dogs. But I'm really interested in seeing the rushing attack for Georgia, because you get Trevor Etienne now, who I'm sure a lot of folks down in Florida are very familiar with, coming down there to help out the Georgia rushing attack. And you get Roderick Robinson and Branson Robinson both coming back, or Branson Robinson rather, coming back from a big injury. And, we know Georgia's strong up front, especially in the trenches, offensively and defensively. My thing is going to be really watching Clemson. Like, is Clemson for real at this point? It's been kind of a few years of question marks for them, especially with Dabo's NIL and sort of transfer portal unwillingness, per se, for lack of a better term. So I think it's a huge, huge prove-it game and assessment point for Clemson, because I think at this point we really know what the Georgia Bulldogs are. They've proven year in, year out that, they are pretty much the next Alabama with the roster and what Kirby Smart has been able to build in Athens. So I'm interested to see the Georgia rushing attack and really where Clemson's at this point, because if Clemson makes it a game, I think it's safe to say that they still very much are a threat in the ACC.
All right, Miles, appreciate it so much. We are looking forward to that game on Saturday, a nice little week away from the NFL, and then Georgia Tech. Man, oh man, Taylor. I can't help but reflect when we had our good friend Miles Garrett on previously, and he told us a top 3 team in the ACC. You're sticking by that prediction, sir.
Oh, always. Always have a soft spot for the Yellow Jackets.
Love it, love it. Miles Garrett up in Atlanta at Fox 5. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. Glad I got to catch up with you as well, my friend.
Sounds good. Y'all take care.
The battle for the ATL on Saturday, 8 o'clock. I mean, I don't know who made the schedule, ladies, but we got Georgia and Clemson at noon, which I'm not complaining. Yeah. I like starting with a marquee game.
Definitely.
But we got the battle for the ATL in primetime, which, I don't know, it seems fitting. It seems fitting after what we saw last week.
I did want to share this really quick because Tom Pelissero had noted it doesn't, I guess, affect here, at least our depth charts that we had personally, but some other teams it may affect. And they said an important note as teams construct their initial 53-man roster, NFL teams were informed that the NFLPA vetoed the revised emergency third quarterback rule that would have allowed teams to elevate a bona fide QB from the practice squad an unlimited number of times. So the rule is going to revert to last year's version, which says that the emergency third quarterback must be on the 53-man roster, not an elevation player.
So it'll be like we saw last year midway through the season, in which after Trevor Lawrence suffered the injury against the Colts, Nathan Rourke had to be signed to the active roster before the Jaguars played the Saints on Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have Clemson, Georgia at noon. Of course, Miami at Florida at 3:30. And then at 7:30, you've got Notre Dame at Texas A&M and USC at LSU.
It's going to be a fun day. Let's go.
Buckle up, folks.
College football.
I'm glad we got 4 more
delivers.
days to dive into this.
And of course, Boston College, Florida State Monday night, which I'm sure for Florida State fans, they thought that would be an easy game probably before the season, even though BC gave them all they wanted last year.
Also, I feel like while we've talked about LSU, USC, because Lincoln Riley tried to dodge the Big Ten's powerhouse out there in the state of California.
Actually diving into the matchup, we haven't really.
Right, because no, not even the matchup. Because we'll do that at some point during the week. The fact that the game is in Vegas, like completely forgot until this morning. I was like, oh, that's right. They're like randomly playing that game on a neutral site. Why were you dodging them? You didn't have to go to the Bayou, dude. Yeah. Like, I don't understand. You're actually playing closer to home, even if it's going to feel like an LSU home game.
Because Lincoln Riley knows that LSU is better than USC, and they don't have Caleb Williams anymore. All right, we will finish our projecting of the 53-man roster for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday. And I said it last week, want to say it again. Big Chief was voted the best tire shop in Jacksonville for the 5th year in a row for the Community Choice Award. So congrats to them. You can visit them at bigchieftire.com. We'll be back on 10 to Next on 92.5 FM.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
Do you even know how to work this stupid thing?
Professional.
We've got to do something.
Steadfast.
Very confused by what's going on.
Deep thinkers.
Here we go. Focus.
Mornings on the drill.
Abundanza.
On 1010XL. Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Mia here. Why Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned? Because when it comes to selection, you don't want to have to compromise at all. You want to get it all, and that's exactly what you will find at Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned. Just listen to this, folks. Over 275 SUVs, over 200 cars, over 100 pickups, over 50 luxury vehicles. That, my friends, is over 600 cars, and they are all in one location. Maybe you're buying your kid's first car, or you're on a tight budget and really need some wheels. Arlington Pre-Owned even has 125 vehicles under $18K. And if you're looking for buying confidence, you found it. Because when you buy from Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned, you get 60 days to love it or exchange it. 60 days. Need a little credit help? Arlington has your back with their Credit for Everyone program to help you get financed. Why Arlington? The better question is, why not? Don't wait. Shop Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned today. In person, 10939 Atlantic Boulevard, or online anytime at arlingtontoyota.com.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. From GFL, Green for Life.
Jacksonville, Taylor Dahl here of Helmets and Heels. Are you looking for a remix on the original chicken sandwich? Well, the Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is a flavorful spin on a familiar favorite. Created with a Chick-fil-A filet, a drizzle of honey, pickled jalapenos, and a spread of savory pimento cheese, the Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich combines your favorite flavors with a twist. And this year, it's back with a bite with a spicy filet option. Available for a limited time only, so stop by, enjoy one today at your local Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Expert Automotive is ready to keep you cool this summer. Right now, get an AC inspection or a system cooling checkup. Your choice for only $19.99. Their gift to you this summer is $50 off any service and a free tire rotation with any service. Their ASE certified technicians can keep your car cool without breaking the bank this summer. Call them at 374-3373 to get an appointment today. Expert Automotive. They never sell greed, only what you need.
Has someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI, domestic violence, and all criminal offenses. In your battle with the justice system, there's only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645. 354-5645.
It's a Helmets and Heels Big Chief Tire Monday.
Looking to elevate your game night experience? Look no further than Best Bet. We're not just a card room, we're your destination for excitement, fun, and big wins. Whether you're a seasoned player or new to the game, we have something for everyone. Join us at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, or St. Augustine for thrilling tournaments, exciting promotions, and a vibrant atmosphere that will take your game night to the next level. Elevate your game night at Best Bet. Visit bestbetjacks.com to learn more. That's bestbetjacks.com.
Need protection? Call Craig and Christine Kaprosky at Goosehead Insurance. The Kaproskys are a husband-wife team committed to finding you the right coverage at the right price in just a few short minutes. For home, auto, flood, or specialty insurance, Craig and Christine Kaprosky are the answer. Craig.Kaprosky at Goosehead.com.
If you're looking for custom metalwork, look no further than Superior Fence and Rail. Whether it's custom railing, shade structures, or custom entry gates, their expert team controls the turnkey process. From CAD design and raw metal to powder-coated finish and expert installation. When you choose Superior Fence and Rail for your custom metal project, you get a project that's, well, superior. So get off the fence and call Superior Fence and Rail today.
When all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. I'm Dr. George Bari, and like me, I know you have been bombarded with PRP and stem cell treatments from companies that promise the world and charge prices to match. Or the surgeon that convinced you the only way to treat your injuries through surgery. At Bari Orthopedics, we offer the best PRP treatment on the market with prices that won't cost you an arm and a leg. We also have the expertise to treat your injury surgically if that is what it entails. We can discuss all surgical and non-surgical options with you and make sure you get the best treatment available. Come see me, Dr. George Bari at Bari Orthopedics.
The flagship station of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Are you a meat lover searching for quality cuts? Southern Steer Butcher uses a vacuum tumbler to marinate and tenderize our chicken and world-famous steak tips.
Now open in Ortega. For tasty tips and juicy breasts, choose Southern Steer Butcher.
We love talking sports on 1010XL, and I-9 Sports loves giving kids the perfect way to grow up playing sports. Fall and winter registration is underway. Log on to i9sports.com and see all they've got to offer. Kids 3 and up. You can enter 1010 in the promo code for a discount. Year-round sports all across the First Coast. St. John's, Duval, and Clay. Sign up now for fall and winter. Great locations added like Fort Family Field, Westside Middle, and Duval Charter Bay Meadows. It's all online at i9sports.com.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update. Georgia Tech upsets the number 10 FSU Seminoles with a walk-off field goal in their season opener in Ireland this past Saturday, 24-21. Going back and forth throughout the game, the Yellow Jackets managed to get into the Seminoles red zone with just a little over a minute left on the clock and kicked a 44-yard field goal as the time ran out. Seminoles head coach Mike Norvell spoke post-game on not letting this loss define them.
We've got to take a step as a football team and not let this one game define, the outcome of what our season will be. We get to respond, and here in a week from now, you get to play another ACC opponent, and we got to go get better. And it's going to come down to the work and the overall execution of details of fundamentals and making that happen here, next Monday.
The Noles will get back at it when they host Boston College at home next Monday, September 2nd. It's 89 degrees at 1 o'clock time, and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor on 1010XL.
All right, we've been through, ladies, the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, a.k.a. the offensive side of the ball. Now let's get to our 53-man projection for the defensive side.
Can I share something really quick?
Yeah.
Because we were just talking about this on break, how this time of year really has to be super difficult for coaches making these decisions because, yes, you obviously want to better your football team, but these guys, you form relationships with these players throughout camp and throughout practice, and some of them are on your teams for a few years, and then you end up having to part ways with them. But Dan Brugler just actually tweeted something this morning, and he was like, this is always a tough part of the NFL calendar. Almost 1,200 players will be cut by Tuesday, some of which will have another shot at a roster or practice squad, but a lot of players, this is their chance, and they'll never see the NFL again. So those are, as we all do it, because we want to see what the Jags' depth chart looks like. But for some of these guys, it's a really rough week.
And the other way of looking at this, on the heels of what you just noted before we took a break, Taylor, regarding the third quarterback rule and the idea of can they just be elevated from the practice squad an unlimited number of times, is the practice squad, the expanded practice squad that we've seen since the COVID season. And while certainly, yes, for some, it's a slap in the face, or they feel like, well, I'd rather be on the full 53. Everyone would rather be on the full 53.
Yeah.
But I go back to my conversation before his unfortunate ACL tear with Deshaun Dixon, and he stressed how, yeah, it was disappointing to have made the 53 your rookie year and then be on the practice squad. But as he was switching positions, that year of development, that year of gaining the trust and the respect of people in the building, like, it was so vital. And it's part of why I believe if he hadn't torn his ACL, he's a prime candidate, especially after this Gipson trade, to make the 53. He will be on the team because he has been waived, injured, and then brought back by the Jags.
Yeah.
So he'll do his recovery here. But that's a prime example, and it's something that I've really tried to wrap my brain around. And when I've spoken with guys at practice, really try to get intel from them on how players view that practice squad in 2024 comparatively to 5-6 years ago.
There's also guys that make the initial roster, not necessarily here this year, but in the past. Guys make that initial roster, you're thrilled, and then 5 minutes later, a couple days later, what have you, you're no longer on the 53-man
You're waived
roster.
because they claim somebody else, and then
Correct.
suddenly you're out on the street.
Right. Roster transactions, most people just read them, right, and they move right along. But like you said, I mean, these are people's real lives.
Yeah.
And so it is something I know that is stressful for Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke as they feel the emotions of what these guys are going through. Doug certainly was, in this position as a player, and it's not fun to have that conversation. That's why we talk more about the guys that are going to make it, less about the guys that are not going to make it. All right, defensive line, like you mentioned, Deshaun Dixon, I think, would have been in this group, but he's going to be on injured reserve for this season. My guy is Sezi Otomoeo. I read his initial pronunciation from the actual Minnesota football guide, and that's different than the Jaguars. So in my head, I still had the Minnesota, but it's different now. Either way, I wanted him to make my 53, but sadly he did not. And also for me, Tyler Lacey did not. So here's my defensive line room. Eric Armstead, Roy Robertson Harris, Devon Hamilton, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Mason Smith, Jordan Jefferson. Those are the two rookies. And then Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, DJ Coleman, and Miles Cole.
So you have Ledbetter, but you have 9 total?
I have 10 total.
Okay, repeat those first 5.
Armstead, Roy Robertson Harris, Devon Hamilton, Ledbetter, Mason Smith.
I don't know where my math is not mathing them, because I have 10 as well. I have Armstead, Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines-Allen, Devon Hamilton, Mason Smith, Jordan Jefferson, Roy Robertson Harris. And then I have, I guess it's just the swap of Tyler Lacey for Jeremiah Ledbetter. That's all, I guess, I was confused there. But I also have DJ Coleman and Miles Cole, especially in light of the comments that Doug Peterson made this morning. Like you mentioned, Lauren, certainly if the Jags find somebody out on the open market, I've seen plenty of folks on Twitter suggest Ernest Jones, the Waycross, Georgia native. He has been given permission from the Rams to seek a trade. Could that be a potential fit for the Jags? Does that then translate to, if the Jags were to trade for him, and I have no intel on that, I'm just seeing it on the timeline, that maybe then they say, okay, DJ Coleman, you're going back to the practice squad. We're bringing this guy in.
Yeah.
There's potential for that, but the fact that he brought those two guys up unsolicited says that the Jags really have truly liked their development. And I think the same can be said for Tyler Lacey, a guy who, as opposed to Jeremiah Ledbetter, who's primarily going to play inside for you, not to say you're going to line Tyler Lacey up at a wide 9 spot. You're not going to, but I think he offers a bit more at the 5 technique than Ledbetter does.
Okay.
Yeah, I have obviously the starters with Trayvon, Devon Hamilton, Eric Armstead, Josh Hines-Allen, and then behind that I have Miles Cole, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Jordan Jefferson, Roy Robertson Harris, Mason Smith. Yep.
So you have how many? 9?
That's 9, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So me and I both have 10. Taylor has 9. And let's get it to the linebacker room. This is where my initial 53 was completely wrong. I only had 4 linebackers at the time. I don't know what I was thinking because now this team is a 4-3. But either way, I added some linebackers. So my 6 linebackers, Foye, Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma, Ventrell Miller, Yasir Abdullah, and Caleb Johnson.
Okay, I kept 5. I have everybody but Caleb Johnson that you mentioned. I have him on the practice squad because, yes, I have a practice squad projection as well. And I think we also need to factor Yasir Abdullah in when we discuss this trade of Trevis Gibson this morning, and also who factors in as the 3rd, 4th edge rusher for the Jags. Doug has said he wants 8 guys coming in waves. Abdullah gives you that Swiss Army knife if he can do a couple different things. And I know Tony mentioned this on Jags Today this morning, that he went back and kind of watched the game with an eye for how early did Yasir Abdullah get in, as well as how many snaps he saw throughout the course of that final preseason game. Another important note, too, with Yasir is that he can provide that special teams role. That was literally the only thing the Jags were clinging on to when they kept Caleb on Chase on last year.
Yeah.
He steps into that role as well.
Yeah.
And I have Caleb Johnson on mine with 6 because of the special teams.
Yeah, and so my original preseason, I had Devin Lloyd, Ventrell Miller, Yasir Abdullah, Foye Luke, and Chad Muma. I have the exact same, except I just added Caleb Johnson.
Okay, so Taylor and I have 6 linebackers. Mia has 5.
Oh, I have 5.
You have 5.
Lloyd, Caleb, Ventrell, Yasir, Foye. Oh, yeah, Chad, 6.
Yeah. And then, because if you have Caleb, that's certainly the 6th one. Let's get it to cornerback. I've got Tyson Campbell, Ronald Darby, Jarian Jones, DeAndre Prince. I think those are all no-brainers. And then I have Christian Braswell. So I have 5 total, meaning Buster Brown I don't have making it.
I have 6. I have those 5 plus Buster Brown. Again, I think that while Chris Richard's, I don't want to say that Chris Richard's defensive backs are going to operate much like that defensive front with those 8 waves of guys coming in and out. I think by having those 6 guys, you have capable backup in Buster Brown on the outside. You have guys who can do a couple different things, whether that's Christian Braswell going inside, outside, Jarian going inside and outside. And I just feel like that is the group that when we put our initial 53-man roster projections together, I had the most questions about, are we sure? And now for me, when I put this together, that was outside of quarterback and tight end, the most confident I was in putting together a position group.
Yeah, I had Ronald Darby, Jarian Jones, Tyson Campbell, DeAndre Prince, and Christian Braswell.
Okay, and then we'll round it out with safeties because, as we noted the first time we did this, all 3 of us are going to have the exact same 3 specialists with Logan Cook, Cam Little, and Ross Matzik. But let's get it to safety. I've got Andre Sisco, Darnell Savage, Antonio Johnson, Daniel Thomas, Terrell Edmonds with Dewey Wingard, like we noted to start, on IR.
Same exact ones for me, so I'm keeping 5 as well with Dewey on that short-term IR. My question is, again, now let's try to compare the philosophy that Doug Peterson preached this morning of development. And you ship Trevis Gibson away, you get something in return. This opens up an opportunity, potentially, for Miles Cole, for DJ Coleman. Could you say the same thing here with this safety room, knowing Dewey's still around? He has been at practice. Obviously, he's not playing. He's got, the brace on his knee. But he's around. He's that veteran voice. Deshaun Gipson will be suspended, so he will not be with the team for 4 weeks, but then he'll be able to practice 2 weeks before his suspension is lifted. So you have that veteran guy around. Do you say, I'd rather keep an Eric Hallett, who we've developed and we had on the practice squad last year, we drafted him, as opposed to a former first-round pick in Edmonds, who's kind of become a journeyman of sorts?
Terrell Edmonds was the one for me, but not in that vein. I was more so trying to decide when it came back to the defensive line if I wanted to also keep DJ Coleman, because I was going back and forth between Miles Cole and DJ Coleman. And so for me, I was like, if I kept Terrell, Coleman's out. But if I didn't keep Terrell, Coleman was in for me. So it was still going to factor in my roster spot, but I ended up ultimately saying Terrell Edmonds just because we aren't going to see, obviously, Gipson for 6 weeks. Dewey, because of them bringing in Gipson, a lot of people are like, how long is Dewey actually going to be out? It's going to be at least those 6 weeks. So that's a long time without both of those players. And how quickly are they going to be ready to even come back and be 100% on the same page as defensively as some of these guys? And he's played well. Like, we've seen a lot of really good moments from Edmonds so far in the preseason.
I thought he'd played well too, and I thought he had good training camp practices for the majority of the time as well. The Trevis Gibson news, obviously, today changes, I think, all 3 of our 53-man rosters. We all would have had Trevis Gibson on this team.
And I also think the other idea with Edmonds, too, because I do have my practice squad that I can also reveal, that I think, and the more and more I think about it, again, I'm just so curious if philosophically speaking, you could say something about the defensive line. We want to give these young guys we've been developing an opportunity. Could you say it also for that back end of that safety position? Because then you could always stick Terrell Edmonds as a vested veteran on the practice squad and call him up as needed, akin to what you did with Tavon Campbell last year.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that side. I didn't do my full practice squad. There were definitely some guys as I was making it. It was like little notes of, okay, they're not going to be able to hit my 53, so I can see them heading to the practice squad. Some guys, like you mentioned, when it comes to certain players, they may not go clear waivers, and so you do have to consider that too when you're making all of these decisions. It was interesting as I was going through because, like I said, I compared, and my defense had the most changes from when we did pre-camp to post-camp, and I think that makes sense because we did have a ton of new pieces on the defensive line, and then there were those questions in the defensive back group. But there was 6 players on my defense that were there on my first, and then now it's someone different, and only one offensive player that was different for me.
Oh, wow. For me, the offensive line did change a little bit from pre-training camp to now. Did you want to go through your practice squad?
Yeah, let's do it. So on the practice squad, 16 players. I have one open spot. I also noted that given the fact that he's missed much of training camp, could Stephen Jones be an IR stash? I believe there is potential for that just based off of the lack of playing time. And again, like we mentioned with Keelan Robinson, you can't really put him on the 53 without saying, hey, we need a couple weeks here to kind of get your sea legs back under you after missing time with the foot injury. So the 14 players who I definitively have right now on my projected practice squad, CJ Beathard, although there's an asterisk there too because we don't know the extent of that groin injury that forced him to miss Friday's game. Josiah DeGuara, Josh Cephas, Cole Van Lanen, Trey Flowers, Tim Jones, Eric Hallett with the asterisk of what we just outlined, Caleb Johnson, Jalen Jackson, Austin Trammell. I tweeted this out. I've already seen some of you say you think he's going to be plucked by another team. Very much could happen.
Certainly in the return game.
Yes, absolutely. Assezi, Darrell Williams, Josh Proctor, Sean Bowman.
The tight end one, speaking of Bowman and DeGuara, that tight end room for me was the easiest of pretty much, well, besides quarterback, but the easiest of all.
Yeah, and it makes sense because you waived Josh Peterson injured. He's on IR for the year. And so you saw last year how important having capable tight ends on the practice squad, especially if you're only going to carry 3 on the 53-man roster, how important that is that they can step in at a moment's notice because there was a significant drop-off when Brenton Strange goes down and it's, all right, Josh Peterson, you're getting a lot of run, buddy boy. So I think having Josiah DeGuara, a former day 2 pick, having a developmental guy who Press Taylor has raved about in Bowman out of Rutgers, I think that's a solid crew between the 53-man and the practice squad in that tight end room.
The fascinating thing will be unveiled tomorrow at 4 p.m., basically. Yeah. We'll find out certainly throughout the next 24 hours, I should say, as far as things trickling out. But I think we're all fairly close. Yeah. Obviously, we're going to have missed some here and there. Speaking of the Jags, by the way, thanks to John Shipley for putting out the video. Christian Kirk is back at practice and practicing again today, so that is good news. He's been there, just has been held out with that calf injury. But I think if week 1 was this Sunday, Christian Kirk would play, is what my guess is. All right, we've got more to do. Taylor has a tangent when we return. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Helmets and Heels. This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers. Consider him the captain of your ride home.
Frank Frangie.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
We're on our way to the moon, Fred.
Frank Frangie.
Oh, that man.
Afternoons on 1010XL, 92.5 FM.
Mia here, and when I was buying a new construction home last summer, there was no question. Dreamfinders Homes was the builder for me. A big reason why? Their unbeatable interest rates. Right now, you can take advantage of a 2.99% year 1 rate. Find your dream home, take advantage of unbeatable rates, and move in today. I'll say it again, 2.99% year 1 rate. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Guys, feeling deflated in the bedroom? ED, low T, no energy? If your stuff is broken, call 904-STROKEN or 904stroken.com. No shots in the first treatment, now free. Fix your ED at 904stroken.com.
Mia here. Are you ready for the ultimate college football season? Using MyBookie Sportsbook and casino platform, you can bet on every game and win anytime, anywhere, straight from your mobile device. No app needed. Just head on over to mybookie.ag, sign up, and you're ready to rock. When you bet with MyBookie, you're not just watching the games, folks. You're investing in every moment of the action. I'll say it from experience. A few bucks on the line can turn any regular game into one of the most exciting of the season. Literally, every catch, every sack, and every touchdown is another way to hit pay dirt using MyBookie. Don't forget to use promo code 1010XL when you sign up in order to claim up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. And don't forget that promo code 1010XL.
Hey,
folks, Rick Ballou here for John's Auto. They've been a staple in Jacksonville going all the way back to 1985. At John's Auto, they service all makes, all models, cars, trucks, diesel, you name it, they do it. Whether it's routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul. Call John's Auto on Arlington Road. That's 904-743-3857 or go to johnsautomotivejacks.com.
Helmets and heels.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday. The local Jacksonville shop for fair prices and service you can trust.
This is Keith Scott with Veterans Wholesale Cabinets. We are Northeast Florida's cabinet experts and your best option to elevate your home improvement project for both homeowners and contractors, and attention to detail to every project. VeteransWholesaleCabinets.com.
Cold beer and good grub. That's what you'll get at Taps on 210. Just a great neighborhood feel where friends and family get together. Check out Taps in the Winn-Dixie Plaza, just west of 95 on County Road 210, proudly supporting our 9 After 5 weekly. Head there for a cold one.
Are you 18 years or older, just got married, just got divorced, or have children? Listen up. Have you done your last will and estate planning? If you have questions, call Matt Hinson with the Hinson Law Firm. Reach him at 527-1700. Office is Jacksonville, Florida. And don't let the state decide your fate.
Celebrate a new season.
Don't hold nothing back.
1010XL's college kickoff coverage is brought to you by Jenkins Genesis of Northeast Florida and Island Oaks RV Park.
Do not start celebrating too early.
On 1010XL.
Rejoice!
A lot of companies will tell you they're the best. At Custom Tree Surgeons, they show you every time. Custom Tree Surgeons has built an all-pro team. Every tree service professional has years of experience, continually trained and certified. They know what, when, and how to handle any job. It gets done efficiently and quickly by a team of experts. So for tree trimming, removal, stump grinding, and emergency services, forget any name other than Custom Tree Surgeons. There is no job they can't do better. Go to our website, CustomTreeSurgeons.com. That's CustomTreeSurgeons.com, and let them show you how the job is supposed to get done.
Certainly facing challenging economic times. I can't speak for all of us, but for me, comforting to know my money is in good hands with ITP Partners. Ticket here for ITP Partners. Jacksonville guys taking care of my Jacksonville money. I'll admit it, I don't understand a ton about the economy. Higher interest rates, 401ks, but I do know as I move closer to retirement, I continue to watch my money grow. Thanks to Chris Bryan, Jeff Hartman, Reagan Wright, Dan Abel, and Reed Wingate. Get in the game, guys. ITP Partners, always there to help. For more info, Chris at ITPPartners.com or call 904-312-9751.
Hi, it's Ben, second generation from Beards Diamonds. Guys, if you're popping the question soon, looking for an anniversary gift, before you buy anywhere, shop Beards. From a half carat to 10 carats, Beards will beat any competitor's price.
In the St. John's Town Center or at beardsdiamonds.com.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation, light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to CarlsonDentalGroup.com. That's CarlsonDentalGroup.com for all of your dental needs.
Clean air, cool air, both are extremely important. Trust Florida Home AC to deliver on both with their Remy Halo, the next generation of air quality technology. Call 777-4300 for Florida Home AC and breathe clean and cool air.
This is Greg Huntington, a.k.a. The Mangler. I'm on the winning team at Waste Management. WM is the largest sustainability company in North America. If your business needs sustainable environmental services for waste removal and recycling collection, then you can count on the industry leader of WM to deliver results. Your services will be completed in a timely, safe, and eco-friendly manner. Go to WM.com, WM.com, and get signed up today. If anyone can talk trash, it's The Mangler. Go Team WM, and as always, Duval!
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Light up your lunch with Helmets and Heels.
Presented by First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. This sounds like Jamie Johnson to me.
This is not my song, so I don't know.
This is Jamie Johnson. Right, RJ?
I'm going to say yes. I don't know.
I'm going to say 100%
Did you put the song
yes.
on? Did you put Jamie Johnson on our playlist?
I don't think I did, but I do love Jamie Johnson. All right, Taylor Dahl. Do you have a tangent for us today?
I do.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
It's quarterback tier time, guys. And the Athletic did theirs. They do it every season.
Did they wait until after Friday night's performance by Trevor Lawrence
It was just
to
written.
analyze this? Okay.
It was dropped this morning, or maybe Sunday night. This morning. So it was including that the preseason game, all of the preseason. So it's 50 NFL coaches and executives who vote on this. The Athletic does this every year. They also track where they have a chart where it shows like which quarterbacks bumped up the most from last season, who's dropped, all of those type of things. But I'm not sure everybody will love it here. I'll just preface with that. Oh, boy. Yeah. So let's just start with the top tier, which let me just say they
should
also
be Mahomes
explain,
and nobody else.
Yeah. They also say they have a little explanation. So a tier 1 quarterback to them says can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. He expertly handles pure passing situation and has no real holes in his game. So number 1, obviously Patrick Mahomes is there, and they also rated him within the tiers too. So Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen are their 3 tier 1 quarterbacks, and it's in that order. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen are the order in that tier also, and all of these guys were in the same tier, have not moved between last year and this year. Tier 2 quarterbacks. So it says a tier 2 quarterback can carry his team sometimes, but not as consistently. He can handle pure passing situations and doses and or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him above tier 3. He has a hole or two in his game, but nothing that majorly sticks out. And the top one for them is Lamar Jackson. And so he stayed in this. He was a tier 2 last year. Behind that, Matthew Stafford also stayed in tier 2. Justin Herbert dropped 1 tier. They had him in tier 1 last year. Aaron Rodgers dropped a tier. He was in 1. He's in 2 this year. CJ Stroud, new. Obviously, he was below. I don't even know because it says, he's new.
He wasn't
they didn't
in
have
the tier
him
because he was a rookie. Yeah.
So new to tiers for him and straight to the number 2. And then Dak Prescott, he stayed in number 2. He was 2 last year. Jared Goff jumped up 1. They had him in the 3rd tier last year. And Jalen Hurts retained in this tier. Brock Purdy jumped up 2 tiers. They had him in tier 4 last year, and now he's up in 2. Kirk Cousins retained in this tier, and Jordan Love jumped up 2 tiers. He went from 4 to 2, and that is all for tier 2 of quarterbacks. So we move on to
They're missing someone.
We moved on to tier 3. A tier 3 quarterback is a legitimate starter, but needs a heavier running game and or a defensive component to help them win.
Okay, that's every quarterback, just for the record. Even Mahomes got help from the defense, but that's neither here nor there.
But more help from the defense, I'm sure, is what they mean. A lower volume of drop-back passing offenses suits him best. Tua Tagovailoa at 15, he is retained in tier 3. Trevor Lawrence is right behind Tua in this ranking, and he dropped a tier. He was 2 last year. Behind him is Kyler Murray. He stayed in this tier. Deshaun Watson dropped 1 tier. He was in 2 before. Baker Mayfield jumped up 1 tier. He was in 4. Derek Carr retained here.
Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence are in the same category.
Ditto to Geno and Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Saints fans, by the way, want Spencer Rattler to start getting the actual start over Derek Carr.
I think they put him 16 just because they saw his jersey number, and they're like, we're just going to stick him at 16. That sounds like it makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't just Mike Sando, who we're hoping to have on at some point in time this week here on Helmets and Heels. It's not just Mike Sando's personal opinion. This is based on voting and polling 50-plus coaches and executives around the National Football League. I don't know the difference between Trevor Lawrence's voting average being a 2.6 and Tua's being a 2.5, but Jordan Love is also a 2.5, but he qualifies for tier 2, but the 2 of them don't.
Yeah, and it's so at the top, they kind of explain how they go. So each voter placed 30 veteran quarterbacks into 5 tiers from the best to worst. Quarterbacks were then ranked by average vote and placed into tiers based on vote distribution, beginning with Mahomes, whose 1.00 average vote reflected his status as the only unanimous tier 1 selection. No QBs landed in tier 5, although some received tier 5 votes. The survey excludes rookies because voters obviously haven't seen them play in the NFL. So even if you go beyond like the tier below that, which is the tier 4, there's nobody in 5. It's Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Bryce Young, Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett are that final tier. So that's obvious. Like I feel like you're saying those are all the quarterbacks that are talked about as not being able to kind of handle their team well. It's interesting that they put Russ in 3, considering that Russ hasn't even beaten out Justin Fields for that starting position. But I'm guessing maybe more so just based on experience for Russ. But yeah, so as I was scrolling and I saw it was a tier 3 Trevor Lawrence, I'm not shocked. Like you said, Mia, it's one of those situations where it's going to take him to this year, which I think most of us think it's going to happen. It's at the end of this season and going into next year. We're going to talk about how he moved up back to the tier he was before, and people are going to realize that how much the offensive line and injuries factored into some certain situations. But I mean, they're grading it on your performance last year, and the second half of the season, even though we can use injuries, was not good. So
I feel like if you watch highlights of Trevor Lawrence, you would put him in the same category as that top tier of guys.
Well, I think if you watch his first 11 games last year, I mean, I said it at my sister's wedding to countless people this weekend, and I didn't even have to bring it up to some of them. They said, if you look at the first 11 weeks of the season, he looks like a tier 2 quarterback. And then if he had just sat out those 5-6 last games of the season, maybe we're looking at him the same way people look at Joe Burrow. I know that's a very lofty, gaudy statement to make. Point being, people look at the Bengals and say, well, if they had Joe Burrow, they would have made the playoffs.
Yeah.
If Trevor Lawrence had missed those games, it would have been, they wouldn't have collapsed if Trevor Lawrence had been paying.
Yeah, and I think
said that for a long time.
It also makes it seem, I think, because it's tier 3, that it's bad. I don't think it's necessarily even bad. It says, like, clearly these guys are starting caliber NFL quarterbacks, and it's around guys who have also been successful at times in the NFL. It's just, I think that part of it in the description, it says you need, and we talk about in the first half, like the defense had to save the offense a lot of times in the first half last season, even when Trevor was playing at his highest level. So until I think you don't need a bunch of turnovers or a bunch of picks and you are just winning on your own, which I do think will happen this year because of the weapons that they've added. But just they have the chart too, so the risers and fallers. The biggest jump was Jordan Love and Matthew Stafford. They were tied for the biggest jump. Actually, Jordan Love with plus 13 and Matthew Stafford with plus 6, Lamar with plus 4, Dak with plus 1, and then the biggest fallers were Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, and then Trevor.
Yeah, I think that if you understand what was going on last year with the injuries, and some people say that's an excuse, but I think he battled. Like, he did play in every game other than the Panthers game. And there are some quarterbacks that probably would have said, no, I'm too hurt. I'm not playing. I can't play this week.
There's some people who'd probably say he should have.
Right. And that's why I think they brought in Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Because they needed another guy to turn to, and they didn't trust necessarily CJ Beathard.
And that's
it
where
was hurting the team, not helping the team
Correct.
at that point.
And that's where I said that national narrative of if he doesn't play, it's probably, they would have won the games if he played, regardless of how healthy he was.
Yeah. But then you're not judging you don't have games to judge. So that's the thing too. They are that's part of his season, unfortunately, because he tried to play through it and he couldn't.
And that's what bothers me so much is and I've talked about that, the Joe Burrows of the world, the Justin Herberts, who their season ended, and so people don't tend to knock them because of the injury. And that's where I feel like they should. All right, we have lunch for 2.
We do. Lunch on the ladies, lunch for 2 to Chick-fil-A. Let's say caller number 2 at 641-1010.
I like it. We've got one segment to go here on Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday on 10 to Next on 92.5 FM.
This is Helmets and Heels.
This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers.
Here's Linda Beaver.
Hey, school's in session, and here's today's lesson. We have hundreds of new vehicles. Camrys starting at $329 a month. RAV4s for $349 a month. Tundras as low as $499 a month. And they all come with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. That means you and your soon-to-be drivers will be protected for the next 20 years. Plus, every purchase will help fund a teacher's project in our schools. Your next assignment, get to Beaver Toyota St. Augustine. Deadline August 31st. We're here to wow you and our teachers.
Hey, Jacksonville, Taylor Dahl here of Helmets and Heels. Are you looking for a remix on the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich? The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is a flavorful spin on a familiar favorite, created with a Chick-fil-A filet, a drizzle of honey, pickled jalapenos, and a spread of savory pimento cheese. The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich combines your favorite flavors with a twist, and this year it's back with a bite with a spicy filet option. Available for a limited time only, so stop by and enjoy one today at your local Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Bueller Air and Plumbing presents Are You Cool?
Today's challenger, an asphalt marketer from Jacksonville, Florida. Meet Sheldon Fish. Today's category, air conditioner repair experts in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, I bet it's going to be Bueller.
Your question. Unlike Jacksonville, the Sahara Desert has a complete lack of air conditioner repair experts. What kind of camels do they ride?
That's not really a question about air conditioner repair.
5 seconds.
But that's a camel question.
Pick a camel, Sheldon.
Arabian dromedary.
That's right, Sheldon. Like the majestic Arabian dromedary, the skilled technicians at Bueller Air and Plumbing can repair any make and model of air conditioner the same day you call, making sure you are cool.
They don't spit, do they?
No, but Steve, the new guy, has a bit of a hump.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Sports fans, JJ LaSalva here. When I need to send my bride flowers or a plant for birthdays or anniversaries, I always go with Hume Flowers. After all, they've been the leading florist in these parts for over 75 years. You can always rely on Hume Flowers.
Clearwater. John, I can't even mow my side yard. It's so soggy. Man, my builder sucks.
Brent, calm down. This is a common problem in neighborhoods where houses are built too close together. You need gutters and a properly installed French drain that will soak up subsurface water. We can completely dry it up.
So I can take my builder off my speed dial now, huh?
Yeah, we got you, buddy. Let that builder bitterness go.
Clearwater irrigation and drainage too.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday on Helmets and Heels.
Does the building you go to work in every day need a little love and attention? Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Great companies take great care of the buildings their staff and customers walk into every day. If the building you're in doesn't match the vision you have for your company, we can help. Go to performance-painting.com. Our highly trained team makes the difference. Quality coatings applied with pride.
Performance Painting.
Calling all fans of Duval to downtown Las Vegas during the game against the Silver and Black. This is Lauren Brooks from Helmets and Heels. Join us at Circa Resort and Casino this December for the Jacksonville Game Day Getaway featuring an incredible all-in package. Get a 3-night stay at Circa, $200 food and beverage credit, plus a day bed at Stadium Swim. With 6 temperature-controlled pools and a massive screen, it's the world's largest hot tub party. The all-in package is only available until August 30th, so act now. To book and to join the Heels in Vegas, visit circalasvegas.com today.
Go! Family, football, and Friday night traditions connect the past with the present.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists Friday Night Lights.
With Hacker and Andrew Gipson. Presented by Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning on 1010XL.
Arrested? Got traffic tickets? DUI? License problems, gun charges, drug charges? If you've been charged with any crime, call me, criminal defense attorney Malcolm Anthony, at 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW.
Mortgage rates have plummeted, and Loan Pronto clients are locking in the lowest rates we've seen in years. Hey, it's Roger Moore, founder and CEO of Loan Pronto. It's happening. We are finally locking APRs in the 5s, something we haven't seen for a long time. If that sky-high rate is killing you or you need to get cash out of your home equity, now is the time to take action. Or listen, even if you want to keep that first mortgage rate intact, you can take advantage of lower rates with our Equity Express line of credit. We're seeing homeowners take $50, $75, $200 grand or more out of their equity and wiping out that high-interest debt with an average savings of $850 per month. Bottom line, your home value is way up and mortgage rates have come way down, making this a great time to act. Call today for a 30-second rate quote. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 mortgage payments. 904-999-1508. 904-999-1508. LoanPronto.com. 904-999-1508.
Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org.
Brackish Vodka, the official vodka of UNF Athletics, 100% made in Jacksonville, is available at all local liquor stores. Visit Browdy's, Total Wine, ABC, Shores, Golden, Sahara's, Golden Ox, and more. Drink our gluten-free San Francisco Spirit award-winning vodka and see why it's the smoothest vodka you can buy. When you drink Brackish Vodka, you support all of our local employees and all the money stays in Jacksonville. Drink Brackish Vodka and live life slightly salty. Proud partner of the Jaguars.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
The Jags showed up against the Falcons Friday night in their 3rd and final preseason game. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence gave the team an early lead, throwing 2 touchdown passes, and the Jags defense locked down the Falcons, keeping them scoreless the whole game. Coach Peterson shared how proud he was of the team post-game.
I thought both offensively and defensively, the starters did a nice job, coming in. And it's always tough, I know, when, on those guys, because you just don't know how long you're going to play. But for them, especially offensively, to come in and get the 2 scores like they did and put some good drives together early, was good to see. And then defensively, the same way, being able to get those stops and, come off the field. And even when the backups and the young guys played, they played hard and fast. And, proud of everybody, the way they competed tonight.
Sound courtesy of Jaguars.com. I'm Molly McDonald with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
Oh, let's first cool it down with some birthday wishes. Shout out to one of our loyal Heeligans, none other than our friend Logan Bowles, celebrating his birthday today, RJ.
Happy birthday,
Cue
Logan.
up the music. Want to make sure we give Logan, who is always keeping us on our toes when it comes to breaking news on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures, the personal text lines as well. We appreciate you listening always, brother man. And, of course, looking forward to all the great photos that he will have on the NFL sidelines this fall. We did our 53-man roster projections ahead of tomorrow's cut down. And as I said to Mike Dempsey last Wednesday during the handoff, really not a ton of surprises outside of the surprising trade of Trevis Gibson this morning for me. If we're talking Edmonds versus Hallett for that 53rd spot, for me, number one, that is to say that there's not a ton of controversy given what players will go to IR, i.e. Dewey Wingard, to begin the season. And it also says to me that the plan that was in place for development back in April, they are seeing that development from young players, that they are seeing the plan that they thought would play out, while certainly giving guys an opportunity to make the 53 to prove them wrong, i.e. Miles Cole. Not sure people had him in the building on their 53-man projections when he first arrived in May. And so I think it's going to be fascinating to see philosophically the approach the Jaguars take across the board when they do make those roster cuts tomorrow.
Yeah, I think to that point, when we look at this, not one of the offensive starters on my list changed from throughout camp, and there's definitely been seasons where it has, certain guys, or there was just position groups that you just truly had no idea how they were going to make it work throughout camp, and then so you're kind of throwing some darts at a dartboard in the beginning, hoping that some of the players you just like or liked in college or whatever it maybe ended up panning out. And so the fact that you do have that foundation of guys that you're confident have a starting role on your offense and your defense is definitely beneficial. And then in general, I pointed out as we were breaking down mine, my offense only had one change in total, and that's I had Tyler Shatley, and instead now I have Blake Hance. So that's the only change offensively that I had. So I think that's also a positive too, because in the beginning I was confident in a lot of these guys and kind of how they've started to build the foundation of both the offense and defense. But for me specifically, the offense, just because there wasn't many changes throughout camp, I was confident. And this isn't there, obviously, so theirs may look different. But from what I felt are players that are worth being on a 53-man roster.
Yeah, it's for me, the wide receiver group was a little bit tough, and then the 2 lines of scrimmage, the offensive line and defensive line. I think they have a lot of talented players at all those positions, and so what do they decide to do? You had Jalen Jackson on the practice squad. He's a guy that I think has looked really good, and maybe they decide to go with 4 running backs versus 3. We all had them at 3, but certainly that's a room that they may want another guy because of the new kickoff rule and the return ability, because Keelan Robinson, who they drafted, hasn't been hasn't been healthy because of the toe injury. And so that's another area where maybe they like I said, could do something a little different than what we predict. Mia, I know you tweeted yours out. I tweeted mine out too. Taylor, I'm sure you can tweet yours out. And so y'all can agree with us or disagree with us. Someone already said, I can't believe Shatley won't be on the team. Trust me,
Believe me,
that's the hardest, one of the hardest ones for me, just because he has been reliable every single time he's been on the football field and asked to step in at times and certainly start at times as well. And he's played center, certainly, and he's played the guard positions as well. We also talked about Florida State, Georgia Tech, the fact that Florida State lost 24-21. I don't think it had anything to do with the hangover, quote unquote, that Paul Feinbaum brought up last week. I think it had more to do with the fact that Georgia Tech's game plan was better than Florida State's.
Yeah. Is it time Let's read some of the airing of grievances from the Knowles fans. We need some sort of like world's smallest violin or some sort of background music for this, RJ, because many of the Knowles fans are saying we shouldn't be crying for them. Do not cry for me, Argentina, because this is who we are.
This is who we are.
From 859, the sky is falling. Terrible day. My heart still hurts. As much as I want to say DJ sucks, our whole team sucked. The defense is terrible. Couldn't tackle. Abused in the trenches. What a sad day for Knowles fans. Tech deserved it. From 980, why is FSU's defensive line being called very good without being proven? 63-3 was a preview of this team without Jordan Travis and those draftable transfers who sat out.
I do think the transfer portal and how we've lauded Mike Norvell for so long because of what he's been able to do with bringing guys in from other schools. Not that one game is going to determine the future path for FSU, but you do wonder, is that the best path? Or is, going back to the Jaguars like you've been talking about with the onboarding development, is it bringing in high school guys and learning your system versus bringing them from other schools? There's a mixture.
Some on the Mike Norvell front. From Charles, as a neutral observer, I thought Mike Norvell was really good at evaluating portal talent. He missed on DJU badly.
I mean, I feel like we've been saying that for quite some time. And this is nothing against the kid. He seems like a really good guy, and he's taken to Tallahassee and works hard. But the accuracy has been lacking for years. And that's why when we talked about this with multiple people who cover Florida State last week, they could have gotten Cam Ward, at least is what it seems like. He went to Miami. Florida State certainly had a way better season last year than Miami. Where would FSU be today if they had Cam Ward instead of DJ Uyunglele?
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking, Lauren, to Matt Hayes on Friday, and we asked, how close are Haynes King and DJ Uyunglele, and he said, not close. Haynes King is way better than DJ. And that was Friday before we even got to see anything. But everything we were hearing out of camp was not very good when it comes to DJ. And that's why when we were just talking to Miles Garrett earlier in the show, and I asked the question, is this what we see as the product of Florida State all season? Or because there's so many half of a new offense, is it going to take time for things really start to figure out? We talk a ton. They don't have a preseason in college, so they're not out there playing games, getting these real reps with guys like you do in the NFL. And so this is kind of that first test. And unfortunately, it was across the pond in Ireland, and it's already adding that layer of stuff, and you have a lot of new pieces. So we'll see if things start to settle in a little bit and DJ at least gets a little more comfortable, and the run game helps, because that's the biggest thing to me. The glaring thing is that you were counting on your run game being able to help DJU a lot, and it did not.
I didn't see. Did Mike Norvell still let them stay a couple extra days in Ireland? I heard that was a rumor, that they were going to be allowed to stay till today.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that actually happened. Speaking of Mike Norvell, from 826, this is why fans are called fans, because you are so fanatical and the patience just does not exist. With Knowles losing, does this make people wonder if FSU is regretting giving Mike Norvell an extension?
I mean, that's the big conversation is, what has Mike Norvell done at Florida State without Jordan Travis at quarterback? And the record is not great. So that, of course, then begs the question, can Mike Norvell win without him? Jimbo Fisher, that was a question that they had too. Can Jimbo Fisher win without Jameis Winston? Well, he went to Texas A&M, never had a Jameis Winston, and certainly didn't win. Now he's no longer the coach.
I do think, though, that Norvell was able to develop Jordan Travis, too. When you saw the beginning of Jordan Travis, it wasn't the end product of what we saw Jordan. So I do think you have to look at that. And it's not like he went and got this guy out of the portal who was this slam dunk already made quarterback. He really helped develop Jordan Travis into the player he was, that we saw go, almost go, if he would have played last year, into the playoffs.
And finally, from 424, DJ looked like a sloth. Bring on Cromanhook.
I knew those were coming.
I don't know. I don't know
we
what
said, how long is the leash? That was the conversation we've had so much this offseason of how long is the leash? How long do they let DJ go if people are shouting? Okay, one game. One game.
Also, 678 wants us to start referring to him as DJ PU until he wins a game. So, I mean, hey. Let's do it. I mean, at this juncture, and look, here's the sad part, is that you look at the stat line and it reads exactly like a game manager, right? It doesn't read what we saw from Jordan Travis a year ago, whether you want to chicken or the egg, blame that on the weapons that Jordan Travis had around him that maybe DJ does not have, or you want to blame it on the quarterback himself. But when I look at this box score for DJU, and I compare it even to that of Haynes King, who, again, as we noted with Miles Garrett of Fox 5 Atlanta, certainly also provides you something in the run game that DJU doesn't necessarily provide.
That's what's interesting. They may need to figure out a way to start
getting him
mobility.
getting him to get a bit more mobile. 19 of 27 for 193 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Like it's not bad.
Yeah.
I don't think it's PU. But just as we talked about in your tangent, Taylor, about quarterbacks who have to elevate everyone around them because they do not have a transcendent defense or they do not have these electric skill players, is that what we are seeing? Where being middle of the road is not going to be good enough for DJ at Florida State.
I don't think it is. They're going to have to find a way because in the passing game, it's not going to be there. I think we're going to see a lot of that. You're not going to see a lot of mistakes. He's not going to turn the ball over a ton, and it's not. There's going to be some situations where probably he makes some overthrows or doesn't get rid of the ball when he needs to. There was, I think, only one sack in the whole game too. It wasn't this game where it was very clunky and a lot of mistakes. It was just kind of what it was, and they weren't able to run the ball, and that completely crushed their offense.
I didn't watch that game thinking, ooh, Florida State didn't get talented receivers in the portal, but certainly they lost a lot of talent in the NFL draft. But I didn't watch that going, oh, yeah, these guys aren't good. I just didn't think that their plan of attack was very good, and they needed to, I think, reverse what they did. The first touchdown drive, certainly scripted, that was great.
Yeah.
But they needed to be able to throw the ball to open up the run game. But they couldn't do that. Yeah. And that's, to me, that's on both Norvell and DJ Uyunglele.
Haynes King finished 11 of 16 for 146 yards, so comparable to DJU's 19 of 27. But herein lies the difference. The average pass per attempt for DJ Uyunglele, 7.1 yards. The average pass per attempt for Haynes King, 9.1 yards.
Yeah, and even in I think the total offense in general, Georgia Tech's was like 6.5 a play.
Well, they averaged 5.3 yards on the ground compared to 3.2 for Florida State.
Yeah.
Which Lawrence Toafila had 28 of his 32 yards on one play.
Yeah.
On the touch, and so that's why, like, did you go away from the run?
Yeah.
Well,
and DJ had 6 carries for 7 yards. So it's like those type of things are not going to, if you can't get that going, it's not going to work this year.
I don't think that they've stopped trying to run. It's just Georgia Tech figured out that Florida State couldn't pass the ball.
Yeah,
and so therefore they loaded the box and they said, we can stop this rushing attack because we're going to put extra defenders there.
And it's funny because I asked who were we talking? I think it might have been Wasserman when I said, if Haynes King and Georgia Tech are forced to throw the ball, do you think they'll be able to do that and not have to rely on their run? I should have asked that question about Florida State.
Look, they had a season last year that was so magical until they were snubbed. And now, of course, Florida State fans feel the misery of having a team that's maybe regressing back to the mean. And the mean under Mike Norvell without Jordan Travis, again, is a losing football team. So I think they'll figure out certainly a different game plan against Boston College because, again, they can put on the film from last year when they had all that NFL talent, and BC and Thomas Castellanos were super good and almost won that football game.
And that's the wild part, too, is now you got to turn around and, like, not to say Haynes King isn't a threat to run. He obviously carried the ball for 54 yards, but that's a 3.6 yard per clip. I can assure you, Thomas Castellanos can scamper for a bit more than that. I actually want to pull up what his average was last year because, I mean, he's as dual threat a quarterback as they come. That's part of how Boston College won 7 games last year.
Yeah.
So on the ground last year, Tommy C averaged, 4.9 yards per carry last year, but 8.6 in limited action at UCF. Yeah. So obviously he was a bit more of a wildcat there, more of a runner when he was with Gus Malzahn his first year in college. I'm curious what Bill O'Brien does with him. Does he want to make him more of a pure pocket passer? Is this more of the nasty man Deshaun Watson when he was with BOB? He had the freedom to run if he needed to, but I feel like as time went on, he became less of a runner with the Texans.
They didn't force it, which is some situations, some quarterbacks and offenses you have to, and that's when you kind of run into some issues sometimes because like you said, Lauren, if it's that predictable, then if you know that it's a one pony show, whatever the
one-trick pony.
Yeah, whatever that term is, then it's easier to shut down.
It is, and we've seen that here certainly too. When the Jaguars offense, the passing offense isn't going well, that's what the other team does as well. Yeah. They just load the box.
If nothing else, I will leave you with this. Thomas Castellanos, his final 4 regular season games last year plus their bowl game. Total number of carries, and then we'll do yards. 22 carries against Syracuse, 11 against Vatek, 17 against Pitt, 19 against Miami, 21 carries for 156 yards. This is the quarterback for Boston College, carrying the ball 21 times for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns against SMU, the ACC's SMU.
Yeah.
And so I look at that. I look at 130 yards on 19 carries and a loss to Miami. And I say, man, oh, man, Mike Norvell and company, you better start plugging some holes in the run defense because Tommy's coming to town.
Be a problem.
All right, let's say hello to XL Primetime.
Now, the 2-minute drill brought to you by Injury Care Centers. Discover BioTarget Regenerative Therapy, a safer drug-free solution for lasting pain relief. Visit GoBioTarget.com.
How are you leading today's show, Joe? Are you going the Jaguars direction with the 31 shellacking of the Falcons, or are you going FSU losing to Georgia Tech?
I think we might lead off with like a 2-minute warning to talk about Trevis and then let that 2 minutes run off and then go straight to FSU losing in Dublin. Honestly, it wasn't a shock.
Yeah.
I've been putting people on notice.
I said my MyBookie picks last week. I was all in on plus 10.5.
Well, the thing that obviously the number moving is as important as anything because it went from, honestly, I believe over 13.5 to begin. I was telling Taylor this the other day that it just tick, 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 tick. And then the last week and a half, it went from 12 to 10.5, and you knew something was up. Well, then the other half of that is when you go watch FSU practice and you see DJU complete one, miss one, complete one, miss one.
Right.
And that was it. And so
you saw more completions than I did at the practice then.
Yeah.
You saw a couple.
And Haynes King is legitimate. I kept pointing out he had more touchdowns thrown last year than Drake May, who went number 3 overall.
Joe, I need you to keep a promise for me.
Mm-hmm.
One of our listeners, a nooner and a heeligan, says, Mia, you cannot let the 2-minute drill go by without making Matt Hayes answer the question. How did all the dudes and grown men at FSU get pushed around by an engineering school? So I need you to hold everyone accountable.
They
and
engineered it.
You need to begin the segment with that when XL Primetime comes up.
It is funny. You do fall in love when you see certain teams. And when we made our predictions, nobody picked FSU to win the ACC. So at the very least, that's the way we were looking at it. And I just, my whole mantra coming into this was FSU goes as far as DJU takes them. And DJU hasn't really led anybody to anything. Honestly, he hasn't. So, look, Norvell, they had the stat that I couldn't believe it. The last 21 plus minutes of this game, FSU had one drive.
Yeah.
One drive.
You can't score if you don't even have the ball.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Which way did you end up going? Because we were talking in the hall before.
10.5.
You did go 10.5.
And the under 55, or actually went down to 54.5.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was good.
It was a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
For those of us sitting at home, just getting to see the fans in Dublin and everything. Yeah. I mean, and I knew people that went over there for the game, so that's a crushing loss.
Yeah, they ain't happy. The worst thing is
it's a long plane ride home after that.
Yes, and so Ira Chaffel said they outnumbered Georgia Tech fans about 4-1, 6-1, something like that. They partied. They had a good time. They'll have great memories when you look back at Ireland, but it's just a bummer that after all the chatter, they have now lost to the state of Georgia in back-to-back games after
Brett McMurphy couldn't help himself on Saturday afternoon. I was just sitting there at my sister's wedding, just getting ready to take the family portraits, and I'm scrolling, cracking up at McMurphy.
Oh, yeah.
The 2-minute warning in college football was weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me, but it's a little strange.
Yeah, they're not even allowed to call it that or refer to it as that. So,
but that's what I'm calling it because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
All right, Joe, we'll be listening. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what they have to say about the trading of Trevis Gibson over to the Seahawks.
I can't wait to hear Leon go on about this game.
And that too. You got that right. All right, for Mia O'Brien, for Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. That'll do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. XL Primetime is coming up next. These heels are made for talking, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
You can't